Welcome to Vets to PM's Military Transition Academy podcast, the show where we discuss how to succeed in transitioning from the military service to the civilian workforce. This show and the academy it represents helps veterans transition into meaningful, lucrative post-service careers. Your primary host is Eric Doc Wright, PhD, certified manager, military veteran, serial founder, best-selling business author, philosopher, linguist, and coach. Your other host is Jeremy Burdick, project management professional, scrum master, product owner, and retired Air Force chief, and the current COO of Vets to PM and the Professional Development Unit University, where we will interview veterans successful in corporate America and business to bring you nuggets of wisdom every episode to make you more successful. Next, let's introduce today's guest. Our guest today is Anna Tanzilla, and she joined the Camaraderie Foundation in January of 2016 and has more than 20 years of experience as a leader and manager in the fields of human services and employee benefits consulting. She is a proven project manager and change agent. Anna proudly served in the Air Force for 8 years as a personnel officer and then as a civil service employee. She has her master's in business administration from Indiana Wesleyan and a master's in social science of social work from the University of Louisville. Anna believes strongly in the power of volunteering in the community and has volunteered with such organizations as the YMCA Mentoring Program, Special Olympics, Red Cross, United Way, Junior Achievement, and Habitat for Humanity. Lots of great information here. Works for a really cool organization, and I can't wait for you to get some of this knowledge. Let's get started.
Okay, so rightly or wrongly, Anna, your reputation precedes you, my friend, because Trish Murphy introduced us. And anytime Trish says, hey, I got a gal or I know a guy, we immediately, connect with them. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how you got there.
Sure. Well, I'm an Air Force veteran. When I got out, I did a little bit in the corporate world. I did a little bit in the not-profit world, and then moved down to Florida with the intent of doing something with veterans. Didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Thought I was going to be working at the VA. Well, VA wasn't for me, but found this little company called Camaraderie Foundation on the Edith Bush site and decided to give it a try. And I've been here 7 years now.
Wow.
That is cool.
So what do you guys do over there?
What we do is the mission is to heal the invisible wounds of war through emotional, spiritual, and support services. And we do that by our counseling services. We do that nationwide. We have about 600 counselors that we contract with to make, we always call ourselves small but mighty. We've only got 9 employees, but what makes us mighty is the 600 counselors that decide to join our group and provide the services. It's an amazing, amazing thing to see. And then here in Florida, we also do some other things like transition assistance programs and family support activities like family fun days and resource referrals, in a nutshell.
You know, what's awesome I heard about that message, Anna, is, hey, there's a small core of us that are our peeps. So we know how to take care of them. And then everybody else that does the service delivery is doing so out of the goodness of their heart because they're either vets or they're patriots and they're giving back of their own volition. I mean, you talk about personal motivation, right? Like that's not, hey, I'm the supervisor trying to get them to get out of bed in the morning. I mean, they're there because they want to be. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we pay the counselors per session, but it's not like they're going rate. They're getting paid about $100 an hour, but for a counselor, that's nothing.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we do have some of them that say, hey, just pay for XYZ sessions and we'll take care of the rest. We'll do it all pro bono. They're just great, great, great people that we work with.
Very cool.
Yeah, what's really cool is that all of us that are connected with the organization either are veterans ourselves or family members of a veteran. So we all have that focus of making sure that the servicemen and women get what they need.
So everybody's in the veteran mafia. Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's so neat. So the Camaraderie Foundation, is that they would just go to that .org, or how would somebody find it?
Yep, they found us at camaradiefoundation.org. We've got a little application for our counseling services. Through Facebook and other sources, they can find our other things that we do, like the Family Fun Days that are here in the Orlando area or the Tampa area, they can find us through LinkedIn, a lot of different sources. But mainly for the counseling, I always send them to that CamaradierieFoundation.org to fill out the application. And then one of our highly qualified case managers will call them and do a little bit of an intake and sometimes crisis management.
Okay, great. Yeah, so it's always good to get people heading to the right place to get those resources, because a lot of times we throw resources out there, but we need to make sure we can drop a breadcrumb for them. But then the other side of it is all the services that you guys provide. Do they need to be local? Do they need to be in Florida, close to Tampa or Orlando area?
No, the counseling is nationwide. The resource referral, we've been at this. I've been at this for 7 years. The organization's been around for 14. We have loads of resources that we can refer other people to. Everything from the United Way to the Navy SEAL Foundation and Gary Sinise Foundation. That could just name tons of them that we've worked with over the years that have been able to partner with us back and forth. And even the VA. The VA sends us people, we send the VA people. Because it shouldn't be just one organization. How can we partner together to make an impact? I
agree. I mean, it's what's the best fit for the vet, right? So, I mean,
and some of the things that make us different is we don't really care about a character of discharge. We don't look at that. We don't care at the era of service. We help all veterans, all eras of service. And this is kind of the same thing goes with our families. We look at, it's not just the immediate family, it's who's ever in that support circle. We've helped everybody from a grandchild to a 4-year-old daughter of a veteran to grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, whoever's in that support circle.
Right. That's even better. So it's like a complete ring of help. Wow. Yeah,
and then eventually we'll take the other 2 programs nationwide, the transition assistance and the family support activities. But those are, you got to have boots in the field for those types of things to make them really sing. The transition assistance, it's really the core of it is a great group of mentors that will pair with the veterans or spouses to really understand what's available in the business community and how to network. Because as veterans, you all know, we don't know how to do that. We're actually kind of taught how to, not trust strangers. And now we're telling them, go trust strangers.
Well, and that's, Anna, that's why a lot of the stuff we do at Vets of PM, a lot of our courses for veterans. So, we've got products and services that we sell into corporate America, right? We're here to put our kids in college too, and, make a buck and take care of the vets. And I mean, the way we do it is part of our philosophy is, hey, nobody cares if you get a good deal as long as they get their good deal first. So we make good on the mission and we take care of everybody. We promise we'll take care of them and we exceed their expectations. And then we get to put our kids in college and stuff too, right? We're vets taking care of vets, right? But what I love about you guys is it seems like you're doing a really good job of getting your signal through all the noise in the marketplace, right? Like, hey, it's vets taking care of vets, and here's services a lot like other services, but here's what we do for you. Here's what makes our services special. And then, it sounds like you make it pretty easy for them to get access to those services.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't want to, one of the things is, because we're veterans, we don't want to ever turn anybody away. Even though we don't do financial services, the first time I ever got one of those calls, I said, I will find you somebody to talk to. And I did. And we all do that because we don't want to say, hey, we don't do that. Just go somewhere else. It just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, that's really great. I mean,
how do folks support you guys? Like for all the, so, the way I tell people when I'm at conferences and stuff is there's veterans and there's patriots, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
If you're a veteran, fine, you served or you knew somebody that served, you're in the veteran mafia somehow. If you're not, but you want to help veterans, well, then you're a patriot, right?
Right. I like that.
So how do patriots help y'all?
Well, great questions. Because it's all about, when we're talking, it's all about either getting more veterans to know about us or getting the friends of those veterans to know about us, or it's about talking to those patriots, as you said, and getting them to know how it is they can help. And it's all through stewardship. It's time, talent, treasure.
Amen.
We talked about that mentor core. I've had mentors that have been mentoring with us for 6 years. That's almost unheard of. that they keep volunteering their time. So having those mentors, we have some great corporate donors like Lockheed and Blue Green Vacations, having additional corporate donors. That always is very helpful, as you can well imagine. But those individual donors, those recurring donors, we have this cool program called the Cam Colonels Club. And these are individuals who are just recurring donors. That's that money that you can count on every single month, and you don't have to worry about where it's coming from. That's amazing and wonderful. And their commitment to be able to do that is powerful.
Yeah, it enables you to help so many more, which is really great.
Right.
As a veteran yourself, and you probably see this a lot, is as the people who are volunteering are helping, it's almost like self-care too, right? You get to give back and serve, and by doing so, you're helping your own mental state at the same time. So it's pretty neat to watch that happen, I'm sure, from your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of years ago, we had a young attorney that was in our mentor corps, and we did this little graduation ceremony, and we gave them all little tchotchkes. It's not a lot; it's just a little tchotchke. He posted it on LinkedIn and just could not be more proud of what he did to help the veterans in this group. It was so heartwarming to see. It was amazing.
Wow.
And speaking of that service, JB, as I'm listening to you talk, it just dawned on me. So I'm talking to two Air Force cats who are both COOs now. And one of the struggles I hear people talk about, I was just at Synapse in Tampa yesterday with Stu Smith, one of my Army buddies at FAVOB, and Tony Gray. And many of the veterans were like, this is so great. I know what I could be on the outside now. Because when you come in, if you want to be E1 to E9, you know how to do that. You got career counselors and detailers and all kinds of stuff. You come in as an 01, you want to be an 08, you know how to do that. You get out. The cool part is you want to be something, it's all on you. Like, figure it out and go get it. The scary part is, oh my God, it's all on me. I don't know what I don't know. What in the heck am I going to grow up and be? But it's just really cool to think that both of you are still serving, but you're just doing it in capacities with organizations that are serving. I mean, I don't think that's a small coincidence, right?
No, I agree. There's some sort of a magnetism that pulls you back to service, in that case.
I talk about that a lot. When you get out, your brand, everything that is you is your service for the most part, and you don't know who you are without that. And you get out and you're trying to fill that need. You have to fill that need because you didn't join for the money. You didn't join the Air Force for the money. You may have joined it for the training, but you didn't join the Army. Nobody really joined for the money for the most part. You joined because you wanted to do something bigger than yourself. And now you are able to do that. And then you get out and it's like, what am I doing now? What's the next thing? I hear that a lot from the special ops folks. They get this adrenaline rush and they're doing all of these things that are really making huge impacts. And then they get out. What are they doing? And so they drive them, you've got all of these great organizations that are coming together to help them find their purpose and their brand.
Yeah. Well, so as we kind of go for, some of the listeners out there, what are some of the biggest things that you see that have issues with reintegration or back into civilian life or dealing with, their family structure as well?
Well, I think one of the biggest issues, and I know that I experienced it, is when you get out of the service, and it doesn't matter if you've had combat or if you haven't had combat, it doesn't matter. You've had different experiences, and you go back to your home state or these friends that you knew before you went into the service, and they expect the same person to be coming back, and you're not. And they don't know how to accept you where you are right now. So I always tell, the biggest thing you can do is accept people where they are right now. They're not the same person. And for the veteran to understand that's a hard adjustment for your friends and family to get, that you're not the same. They feel like they're the same, but they've changed too. They don't see their change because they've been doing it all together. You come back and you're this new entity coming back but they expect that old person to be back there, and you're not. You're just
Right.
not. And I think the other thing is, for veterans who have deployed a lot and have been away from home, you've got your home base that's been working fine without you being there. And now they're trying to figure out how to reintegrate you being there and as a family unit. And I think sometimes that takes a little bit of help to make sure that you're that cohesive unit again.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I know that every time I deployed, just coming home that first couple of weeks, it's like, I'm jumping on the kids or whatever else, and that's stepping on toes because she's been doing it for the last, up to months or, depending on which deployment it was, up to a year. And you're like, I'm not really a part of it, or I slowly got to become a part. It's kind of like jumping into a pool, you just slowly get back into it before you just jump right in and reestablish your role as, the dad, the father, the head of household, or whatever role that you were in. So that reestablishment. So it makes sense. I always considered it post-deployment, but I never really considered it post-service.
Yeah.
It's even a bigger adjustment because now when you were maybe the breadwinner, you've got to go find a new identity, a new job, a new family role. It's a lot of things, a lot of spinning plates, if you will, as you begin to reintegrate, and you sometimes get hyper-focused on one without looking at the entire situation.
Well, that's so absolutely true. It's an amazing thing to see as people are adjusting. I had a young man ask me one time, when are you ever out of transition? And I said, well, let's see, I got out a long time ago. And I think I'm still in transition. I think every time I do something new, I change my path. I mean, I've had kind of 3 distinct careers. I've had the military, I've had corporate America, and then I've been in various types of nonprofits. Very distinctive. And how do I pull that together and not be in transition? I'm always in transition. I think everybody is, if it's how you deal with the transition. And I think, you asked a question earlier about what that adjustment looks like. There's so much in the news about veterans and PTSD and mental health. The first thing is not every veteran has PTSD. Not every veteran has a mental health issue. But there is a higher percentage than the general population. That is a true statement. There's a higher percentage of veterans that take their own lives than the general population. So the key is to recognize it and to deal with it and not hide it, not be afraid of it. It is what it is. You got to be that strong enough. I always say, you got to be strong enough to say, hey, I need a little help. I need somebody to talk to. And sometimes that's all it is.
Yeah. And that's one of the 2, in my opinion, talking to hundreds of corporations a year, is that's one of the 2 myths they hold. One myth is, hey, you were in the service. Oh, great. Y'all held a firearm. Y'all shot somebody with it, and you all probably got PTS because of it. And that's just that's the farthest thing from the truth. Here's the other thing that's farthest thing from the truth. Oh, you were in the military. And especially for folks that were in uniform longer, let's say more than 2-3 hitches, right? Is, oh, well, so you know how to follow orders. Well, that's great. They just don't realize that when you're in the field, when you're on the flight line, when you're afloat, man, all I need some bubble gum and duct tape. Like, I'll get mission done, right? There's no cavalry coming for this one. We're some of the most creative, aggressive, problem-solving guys and gals you'll ever meet. And doesn't business have problems to solve every day? But they hold one of those 2 myths, if not both. And it's just really, it's a couple hurdles that the vet has to jump over, and they don't even realize is in their way, right? It's running down the track, trying to transition. And like, to your point, Anna, that was one of my biggest things I struggle with. There was no finish line. Hey, look at me, everybody. I'm all transitioned up. I mean, I've transitioned into 7 different professions now in the last 20 years. I'm getting long in the tooth. But now the good news is I got a system. Figure out what your brand is, figure out what you want to do, figure out how what you used to do translates into the new context of what you want to do, get a couple, professional certifications that says you're that new thing, develop some chops, volunteer with some organizations if you have to, develop some chops, and then turn yourself loose on them. You'll look like them, you sound like them, you act like them. They're like, you must be one of those. Okay.
Yeah. And the truth of the matter is, I think a lot of people are scared of that. Whether or not they're going to want to admit it, that step of determining who you are, determining your brand, and then taking the path towards what's really going to fill your heart. That could be anything from just, having your own business to finding a really great contracting job. It's any of that stuff. And finding that can be difficult. It can be a lot of fun. It can be fun too.
Yeah, it can be scary too, right? I mean, it's okay to not know as well.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those things too. It's like we figure, hey, by the day that my terminal leave ends, I better have a job. I better know who I am. Well, the fact of the matter is, I still don't know who I am. Yeah. I'm always changing. Like there's always some growth. A couple of years ago, I was never thinking I'd ever want to be on a podcast, and here we are. So I think it's okay to not have all the answers, but do something. Right. Like take one step, take a chance, ask yourself. And I think Doc always says this: go find out what you like and do more of it.
Yeah. And then having the confidence, because I've running the transition program, I've seen a couple of individuals who they've had talent. They don't have the civilian degrees, but they have the talent. They know what to do. And because they get turned down because of the lack of professional experience, it knocks at their confidence over and over again. And then it's not because they don't have the professional experience, it's because they don't have the confidence. And it shows when you go in there. I've seen, I saw an E9 that went through that. And it hit after hit to his confidence. And then, taking him back, it's like, dude, go back to your skills. What are your skills? Don't think about what they've said. What are your skills? You got skills at the wazoo. You can do anything. Don't let them tell you no.
And, Anna, to that point, do anything, right? Your skills. So again, they have trouble translating, military leadership into civilian management or whatever. Here's what I was telling the crowd of folks yesterday at Synapse. Look, let me ask you a question. So there's Department of Air Force or Department of Navy, Department of Army, to insert department here. And there's Department of Coca-Cola or Department of Ford. That's a big organization with a specific mission, with a collection of employees, all guided by mission, vision, policies, procedures, SOPs. Like that means they got people problems, they got performance problems, they got finance problems, they got marketing problems. They all got the same problems. So if you can just demonstrate how you used your skills, your experience to solve complex problems for large bureaucratic organizations, brother, sister, you're going to fit right in. That's where you're going to. They just don't wear a uniform, right? They just don't get shot at. It's the same thing.
I saw you at Synapse yesterday, by the way. I kept passing by the FAVOP table, but you are so crowded. Every time I pass by, it's like, I'll see him tomorrow.
Oh, thanks. That was too cool. I was wondering if you were there because you're in Tampa, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Tampa. The organization itself is out of the Orlando. That's our corporate or their main location. I live in Plant City, so I'm kind of go either direction, whatever they need me to.
Very cool. That was a cool show yesterday, wasn't it? Holy cow.
Oh my gosh. I had so much fun at that show. I went last year and I was all by myself, so I didn't get to go to as many of the speaking engagements and everything, but to just meet some of the absolutely amazing, brilliant people out there.
Yep. Well, heck, sister, next time stop by the booth, I'll buy you an empanada.
You got a deal.
Right on.
Yeah, there was in something that you said kind of pinged me, and I'm hopefully the listeners heard it as well, is you talk to an individual, they got a little down and they lost confidence. Mm-hmm. But the problem then is it's a downward spiral. It doesn't stop because you don't have confidence. You get kicked to the curb one more time, and then you lose a little bit more and you lose a little bit. I talked to a guy, I guess it was last week, and it was 42 jobs he put in for. 42 came back and said, you're not qualified, or sorry, thank you for applying. We're seeking other higher qualified candidates, the normal line that they're getting. And it's in all different flavors. And they were completely dejected, right? What do they do at that? Like from a professional perspective, I mean, I know what I told them, but I don't know that I gave them the right advice. What would you have done, Anna, with your expertise and said, after 42 rejections, like they just want to give up? Like, what would you tell the listeners?
What I would say is that you had 42 opportunities that weren't the right opportunity for you. Keep going. You're going to find the right opportunity. And, sending resumes is a great thing. Get out there and network. Most individuals nowadays, they're finding that perfect job by the connections that they have. Don't be afraid to go out and talk to people. And I'm not talking about going to a convention and talking to 100 people. Go somewhere and meet 10 people. Follow up with these people. Have coffee with them. Find out what it is that they need, not what you want to give them, but what they need. And once you find out what they need, then you can kind of see how your skills can fit into that. But once you get those connections, that person that you just had lunch with might know 10 other people that, oh, you know what? I would like to introduce Joe to so-and-so. The networking is so huge in this job market. And understanding, social media is, both a blessing and a curse, right? Everything you put on social media is public. And when you're in that mode of job searching, realizing that everything you put on your social media is also being viewed potentially by prospective employers. So we had one lady, funny story, trying to find a job. And we looked at her LinkedIn post, and she's holding a beverage, definitely at a bar. And I'm thinking, that might not be the right image some employers want. So let's try to see what image it is that they want. And she changed it. And really and truly, she was very highly qualified and was able to find the position she wanted. But that image she had out there in her social media, it wasn't telling the story about her. It was telling a story about a moment of time.
Yeah. Anna, and I think something you said is really key on a couple different levels. So I want to back up a wee bit for the listeners. So you said follow up, and you said network. So think about this, right? And they tell you in the task class, hey, network. And then they don't tell you how. They assume that you know how. Hey, do your resume. They assume that you know what that means and how to do that. Hey, make sure you use your LinkedIn profile. They assume that you even know how to find LinkedIn. I mean, I couldn't even spell LinkedIn when this all started. When I got out in 1994 the first time, guess what? Al Gore hadn't invented the internet yet. Like, there was no LinkedIn. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
So I think something she said is key, MTA Podcast Nation. Anna said, follow up. So the dejection letter, give that person a ring. They're a human being. Hey, man. So I'm really sorry that I wasted your time in the interview and let you down. What gaps did you see in my skills or my experience or my certifications or my background that you needed to see? What would have helped me solve your problems? You put that in the next resume and use that in the next interview. Because if you're in the same industry, they're an organization just like the other organization, like I said earlier, they probably got the same kind of problems.
Yeah.
Let them tell you, and you can do it low threat. Hey, I really appreciate your time interviewing me. I really loved the conversation we had, and I loved what your company does. I was wondering if you might give me a couple minutes in response to this email and help me. Most people won't say, step off, Jill, I'm not helping you. Most people won't do that. And if it's informal, it's low threat. Like, you're not going to put me on record and say, Eric over at USAA said this thing, right? You're just trying to help another human being get better. Most folks, in my humble opinion and experience, will respond pretty positively to that, and they'll help you.
And one of the great tools for that is truly LinkedIn, because if you get that letter, and I've done this in my own personal life, for not just for business, but for other things. For instance, my daughter had a moving company that was trying to help her get her moving stuff here, and something didn't work right. So I got on LinkedIn and I found a couple of connections that I had, and I said, hey, this isn't working right. Can you help me? And I will be danged if the CEO didn't respond back to me. I was shocked. I just floored. But that's the power of that, because it's a quick tool. And if you reach out through LinkedIn, you're going to apply. Or what I always recommend people to do, if you want to apply at USAA or Lockheed or wherever, I would go find somebody that works there already that has maybe some same skills that you already have. Find them on LinkedIn, friend them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I am interested in that. Would you have a few moments to maybe do a virtual meeting with me? Nothing formal. I just want to meet you. I want to find out what the culture is like there. Something like that to build that connection. That's hugely powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And you said something else, and it probably just got kind of missed a little bit, was providing them value. Mm-hmm. Right? Providing that network, that first step should not be gimme. It's what can I do to help you to solve a problem that you have, or let them talk about their experience and their enjoyment of the company and their perspective of culture in that company, rather than, hey, can you give me a job at Lockheed?
Right. Yeah, that's, they're going to expect that. I mean, really, truly, that's kind of what they expect. But you say, I'd like to know about your experience. Or if you find somebody, maybe in the same branch, if I found somebody in the Air Force that was working at Coca-Cola that I wanted to talk to, he said, hey, I see that you're prior Air Force. I was prior Air Force, one service member to another. I'd just like to have a conversation about your transition and how you wound up where you are now.
There you go.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's as simple as that. And then 9 times out of 10, they're going to respond back. And maybe even if it's just in LinkedIn and having that conversation on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's okay to ask for help in a civ div. In fact, I had a senior director of HR tell me one time over a business dinner, hey, before you go break something, I got folks in the organization that are trained on that, and they've been raised on that since they were out of college. I would much rather have the vet ask me something, Eric. I help them, give them the answers, and they don't break something that somebody has to spend time going and cleaning up. Yeah. So it's not all on you to figure it out and get mission done hell or high water anymore. I mean, keep that same kind of drive, but if you don't know something or you think somebody can help you figure it out, ask. All I can do, like my business attorney always says, man, the answer is always no until you ask.
That's right. Yeah. And it's an amazing thing, so many people are just afraid to ask the question or afraid to ask the what ifs for that rejection. But you already been rejected. Just keep going. Find out what it is. Why? One of the things, and it even works with nonprofits. So we were rejected for a grant. I called the individual that was giving the grants out. And I said, thank you so much for your consideration. I'd just like to know, what could we do to make the application better? You know what she did? She gave me some hints. She gave me some guidance. That's what it's all about. And it's just that one more step, the follow-up. Follow-up is so key.
Wow. That is good. Great advice. I mean, the follow-up, I like that. And I like your perspective too on the individual that, it gets rejected. You're gaining intel and experience just by applying. But if you do the follow-up, likely you're going to learn so much so fast. Likely this individual did not do the follow-up because 42 would have turned into maybe 10. I don't know. I mean, it really just depends on the opportunity, the individual. There's a lot more to it. And we probably make it sound a little easier than it really is. And then you run into the asking for help, which I really like that we're touching on that, because uniquely, you're positioned into a place where you're seeing those individuals ask for help. And that's a great thing. But to suffer in silence and then become one of the 22 a day, right? That's what we want to avoid. So what's some advice? I know you've already said, ask for help. Just come to the website. I mean, what's the quickest path that they can ask for help and get to a person like you, Anna?
Yeah, I think the best thing is going to that website, and if it's counseling, go ahead and submit for that counseling application. If it's something on the mentor leadership program or some other programs, we also have a great peer-to-peer program that we've got it both in Orlando and Tampa. Just go ahead and apply, and one of us will get back with you on that. I'll always say that if any person out there, any veteran wants to have a conversation about how to transition, I've had so many transitions in my life. I am always happy to talk to somebody. Please feel free to reach out to me. I think transition, and I think back to my very first transition when I got out of the Air Force. I'll tell one more story. I had a young CEO tell me after my years of being in the Air Force that I had no practical business experience and no supervisory experience. And I was like, at that time, I was still brand new out of the military, and my demeanor went from really friendly to not so friendly real fast. And just said, hey, how many people have you supervised? I've supervised 200. How many people what is your budget right now? My budget was XYZ. Don't tell me I don't know what I'm doing. I can tell you one thing, I don't want to work here. And I walked out and I'm thinking, it may not have been the best way to solve the situation, but it is just, they're going to see that. You're going to have some people that are just, they got those opinions about the military and they're not going to give you the chance. But to be honest, that's not the right one for you. Move on to the next one. What is the story? I think Colonel Sanders had over 100 rejections before he got the first yes.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good key point as well. And you did say it once before, is it may not be the right opportunity. Not every opportunity is going to work out, nor do you want it to work out. Like, you would not have been happy working for that individual that did not value any of your experience or know-how, right? You wouldn't have been in charge of anything. You wouldn't have added a lot of value per se to that company very fast. Now, you could have probably broke through and showed your skills, but ultimately the walking away probably was cathartic as well.
It was, and I think the other thing is to realize your service has value, your experience has value. I always recommend to people, don't expect that you're going to walk in and be in charge. Don't expect that you're going to walk in and become the CEO immediately. There are some people that's truly going to happen. Not everybody. Sometimes you got to go in and then you got to work your way back up, show your skills.
Yeah, I agree. You got to grow, right? You got to grow in that company. It's just like when you go to, for any military members, many different bases as, you go to. Every time you go to a new base and a new organization, a new commander, a new leadership team, they have different processes, different ways of doing things. Now, yes, you step into a position. However, the widest advice that you could ever get, and I've always got by every leader in the military, is don't go in stomping and making changes. Same thing applies in the civilian world. Day one in the organization, it is not your organization. You have to grow into it. You graft yourself into that organization, just like, a grapes or a peach tree, right? You slowly graft in rather than go chopping down the forest, right? I mean, we've seen that a couple times in the history of the 10,000 folks that we've helped. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. I love what you all do, by the way. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's another resource, and we didn't say it out loud, but we've got a job board. It's vetstopm.com/job-board. And they can get there just by going to vetstopm.com. But essentially, it's got a lot of opportunities with vetted employers that are good for veterans, so we've kind of vetted them as far as, hey, one, they hire veterans, but two, they make it a good workplace for them. They understand that, they are a little bit different, and they create an environment for the veteran to flourish. So it's a really good resource for anybody else, and it doesn't cost any money. They can go do that for free. And then if they see something they like, they can read and say, hey, these certifications are preferred. That usually means required because somebody's got them, go get those certifications, and we can help with that too.
Great. That's always lovely. I think, then there's resources to be able to help get those certifications or, help with spouses. I think that in some cases, your spouses, because they've had to endure transition after transition and changing their jobs and uprooting over and over again. And now, in a lot of cases, this is the final uproot, but employers look at that job, and, being able to explain that in such a way that their experience comes through and not the fact that they've had a different job every so often.
Right. Due to no fault of their own. Right? Yeah, we see that a lot as well. And then I saw it a lot as when I was still was, you got really highly qualified spouses that just don't get the opportunity to push the roots down deep into an organization because they're, one, replanted, or two, the member deploys or something, and they've got to wear a lot of hats, so they've got to pull out of the job. So it's that's an important facet of the reintegration, is thinking about the family impact. So I really like that. As we start, and you guys take care of that as well, right? That's one of the features of the Camaraderie Foundation, is dealing with the family.
Absolutely. We talked a little bit about those supportive services, but the family fun days that we do, yes, it is getting together to have a little bit of fun. You go to places like SeaWorld and Crossroads Corral, and Cal Farms in Plant City, all these wonderful places that we get to go to. But part of it's about getting out and getting folks out of their isolation. Part of it's about just building the connections, because sometimes you don't need counseling. You just need a buddy to talk to.
Yeah.
And those informal gatherings, they allow for that, and not just for the veteran, for the spouses and for the children. It's huge. Just to get out there and watch the kids, and just sometimes overhearing some of the conversations. I was at da 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 da, and now I have 5 friends. And then having them have those conversations about what it was like for them, and pretty powerful.
For sure. Yeah, as we begin to wrap up the show, Doc, what other questions do you think the listeners might have?
Well, I think as we're concluding, speaking of follow on, what do you do next? What are your next actions, right? When something concludes. So back to Anna's point, the interview's over. You reach out for that informal informational interview. How could I have fit your organization better? How could I have helped? Think about what you don't say in that communication. To quote Anna, take that next last step, right? Or as what was the guy Jim Valvano used to say, never give up, right?
Right.
When you reach back out. So whether it's a job interview or whether it's a grant, what that gal whose job it is to give away grant money heard when Anna followed back up is, wow, maybe next time she should go to the top of the stack for a little bit of extra, for a second look or a little bit of extra consideration, because that gal's serious, mission's important. She thinks she can spend my money pretty well, and is so convinced that she's willing to humbly come back to me and try and get me to help her. Mm-hmm. Same thing with a job interview. I may have hired for that position and may have closed it, but when you show me initiative, when you show me follow-up, when you show me leadership, when you show me accountability for results, hey, man, I'm looking for that all day long. I must have just missed it in our last interview. The next time something pops up, you know what I mean? I might remember your resume. So anyway, I just think that's, just because something is over, an event or a grant proposal or a job interview, doesn't mean it's finished. It just means that event in that timeline is over. Follow up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And don't be afraid of the follow-up. Just ask. That's the key. Just ask.
Yeah. Wow. I think that's great. And I think that's the central message of this show, is the follow-up, right? That next last step. That's one of the big nuggets that I'm pulling from it at a minimum. Any last parting shots that you want to share with a transitioning veteran, Anna?
Well, I think number one, there's organizations out there to help. Don't try to do it alone. There's lots of us out here to help. Just reach out, and we will give you whatever advice, whatever resources, whatever you need. Just reach out.
Yeah, I can't agree more. It's a team mindset in the military. It should be a team mindset as you transition, and then build your team in your new civilian organization. It's ubiquitous. It needs to be part of what you do, because you're stronger together. And I love it. And I think lots of great wisdom. Really cool that we've got the CamaraderieFoundation.org out there with a lot of other service connected veteran organizations. So, it's kind of like a clearinghouse. It seems like when you go to the website, there's a lot of different programs that you can source, even if it's not right for you. Like, you might find something else that is right. So go visit the website, go check them out, go see what they have to offer, and see what is that might just ring true for you in your transition.
Absolutely. And thank you again for having me on.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for taking time out, Anna. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in and spending a bit of time with us at the Military Transition Academy, powered by Vets to PM. If we piqued your interest, but you want more details, please head over to the website vets2pm.com and see if we can help prepare you for a better tomorrow or a future meaningful and lucrative career.